Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So I'm really excited today to be going over the Milk Cosmetics Impulsive palette here. Here's the unit carton. It's got all these cute pictures of all the people I think they've met along their journey. As far as the palette, I mean, this thing has some weight to it. It is called Impulsive by Milk Cosmetics. I picked mine up at Sephora. They do carry this brand now at Sephora. You can also pick this up on their website as well. So I'm gonna open the palette here and hopefully you guys can see it. It's stacked like stairs. It's kind of hard to tell that by looking at it, but it is stacked up like stairs. So we have matte shades and shimmer shades in this palette. I was really drawn to everything on this side of the palette here. The yellows, the oranges, the greens. I love all those colors. This side has more shimmers, but it's a little more cool tone than I normally like. But when I was playing with it, there are some really pretty shades in here as well. This palette is a little more expensive. Let me check my receipt to see what I paid for it. This palette retails for $65, which I feel is kind of a lot of money for an eyeshadow palette. That's just me. Yes, I have purchased other palettes which are more expensive, such as like Natasha Denona and things like that. I want to go over the fact that I really don't like the setup of this palette. It is extremely heavy. Not super travel friendly, and I also it came with these little things to cover each section so they don't mix, but I just find them annoying and I'm not super excited about that in particular. If I get a chance, I will maybe in the end I will show some swatches as well. I'm gonna start with my MAC Prep and Prime 24-hour eye base all over my lid as usual. So there really isn't any under brow shadow, so I'm just gonna skip that part. I am gonna start with my synthetic Wet n Wild brush. I'm gonna go into the yellowish like mustard shade, which is called 212. First thing I noticed right off the bat, dipping in, there's a little bit of kick up. Not enough that I am concerned about it, but just so you know, there was some kick up in the pan. I am going to do the color right next to it called Rule Breaker, which is kind of this pretty orange pumpkin color. I'm gonna put that on my MAC 217 and go through my crease. Not going all the way to the inner tear duct, just past the iris of my eye. I will say there isn't a whole lot of fallout when I'm using the colors. There's just some kick up in the pan. So again, if that bothers you, that is something that's happening here. It doesn't bother me, and I don't think it's enough to be like concerned about, but if that's something that is like a pet peeve of yours, these do kick up in the pan a little bit. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that orange shade. I'm gonna go into this darker green color called Profesh. I like a lot of these names too, by the way. I think they're really cute and fun. So I'm gonna go with that darker green here on the outer edge. So I am seeing as I build this green on top of the other green, I am losing some pigment here. I've been finding with a lot of greens that happens, so I'm trying not to falter this palette too much, but I am kind of tired of every time I get a green palette, it doesn't blend well or it gets patchy. I've had this happen a lot with several other palettes as well. This side seems to be working a little bit better with patting motion, so I will see if I can build this side back up with just patting motions. Taking that original brush that you had the orange shade on, which is called Rule Breaker, just kind of blending this up and out. Just for giggles, I am gonna go into the color Bold, just to add some more depth here to the outer crease. Going back in with that orange because I don't want to lose that right here. Packing it just a little bit. And then going back in with that yellow. Taking the orange brush, no additional product, just kind of patting it. I think I'm gonna go with the shade called No Regrets. I'm gonna take a flat synthetic brush first, and then if that doesn't work, because this is a shimmer shade, okay. So you gotta be really gentle with this shade. If you press too hard, it comes right up. I wasn't expecting that, so we're gonna try it with my fingers instead, because when I got in there with a brush, it got kind of falling apart on me, which is no good. Use what's on this brush. Okay, going back in with that green original brush, no additional products, just kind of melting it through. All right, so with the magic of YouTube, most of my face is on. I'm gonna go back into the Melt Impulsive palette and do my under eye. I'm going to take a flat synthetic brush. This one just happens to be from MAC. It's a 212. I'm gonna go into the color called Game Changer, which is this really pretty lime green in my waterline. Okay, so I really like that green. I'm gonna take another crease brush. Actually, I'll take this one. It's the Luxie 243 Precision Blending, and I'm gonna go under my eye with the color called Profesh. And just proceed to smoke it out. That looks really pretty. I'm gonna take my ring finger and go into Poppin' Bottles and make the inner tear duct just a little more intense, because you can't have enough inner tear duct highlighter, right? All right, so all my makeup's on. This is my completed look with the Melt palette called Impulsive. So let's just start out with the overall look. I like it. It worked well. I was impressed with some shadows and not others. So for me, maybe a little inconsistency as far as colors go. I will do some swatches as well, just to kind of like, you know, explain a little bit better about how and why I feel the way I do about the palette. So for me, unfortunately, I probably will not be keeping this palette. The bulkiness of this palette for my collection is just ridiculous. And it's super heavy and not convenient for me. However, I think that the quality of the shadows are really, really good. I wouldn't say they're the best shadows I've ever had. However, I do think the quality and the pigment is very good. A lot better than a lot of other indie brands or smaller companies, or even some of the most expensive eyeshadows that I've ever tried. So I do like their quality. The quality is good here. The packaging for me, I just think sucks, and it will drive me pretty much insane. I mean, this thing is shaped like a brick. And it's just not a great setup for me. I just don't like it. They do make the stackables. I think in the future I would be interested in getting some stackables, maybe some mattes here with those greens, orange, and yellows. I think that would be amazing. There's sparkle shades. There are a few here that are a little more unique, but I can make pretty close looks with them, or dupes. So I don't feel like there's anything in here that I 100% need and have to have. So that's kind of what I think. And for $65, it's a lot of money for 18 shadows. I have a lot of other palettes that are $65 that are 18 palettes as well. But the layout is just a little bit more user-friendly, a little more comfortable, a little more compact, a little more sleek, easier to store. I don't like the design of the palette. That's the biggest issue for me. I don't think the quality is lacking necessarily. I think there was a few shades that were inconsistent. However, I think if I use them on their own, they would be fine. I think they just didn't layer well on top of other colors. So that's what I think about that. So I'm gonna do some swatches, and then I'm gonna do some colors in my collection that I think are pretty close. It doesn't necessarily mean they're 100% dupe, but close enough for me, okay? So I'm gonna do some shimmers, and then I'm gonna do some mattes too. So this color is called Makeup Junkie. And that will be here up at the top. Very pretty shade. I'm gonna go into a couple different palettes just to see what I have that's close. This is the color called Eve from the Lime Crime Venus Extra Large 2 palette. And I will do one other color from the Venus Extra Large palette next to it, just because I think they're all kind of right there, but not quite the exact same color. So it's these three shadows. So this is the Melt shadows, and then these two are the Lime Crime shadows. So they're very similar. I feel like this is a little more pink purple, this is more pink, and then this one has a little more red to it. So I feel like if I did those two on top of each other, I'd probably get a similar color to the Makeup Junkie in the Melt palette. Let's do just a few more, because why not? Let's use this palette actually to compare with the Venus 2. I feel like the Venus 2 is very comparable to a lot of the shades in the Melt palette. It's got this pretty mustard shade. So that's the mustard shade. This is the Melt one. This is the Lime Crime one. So the Melt color is 2112, which I'm wearing, and then this is the Lime Crime mustard shade. Also, let's do this orange as well. So the first orange here, which is a little more red, is the color called Rule Breaker, and then the orange next to it is Jam. They're not identical, but on the eyes blended out would probably give you a very similar look. That's just my opinion. I know they're not exact dupes, but they will give you a very similar look. Okay, so the top is Boss Lady, which is in the Melt palette, and then this is Mud, which is in the Lime Crime Venus 2 palette. So I feel like the colors are very similar, not identical, but they are close enough for me. There's even a green in this palette, which is different than the greens in the Melt palette. Could it be work just as well, since the greens were a little patchy in my opinion. They are a little bit brighter, the greens. I do have some lime greens too from Sugar Pill and stuff that are kind of right in between these two colors. So I don't know, for me, and the price, I think this one was maybe $34, $32. They're Lime Crime Venus 2. I would actually purchase this over the Melt just because I feel like you're getting a beautiful amount of shimmers, which are just those right there, and then you're getting enough mattes to do a very similar cohesive look, because I feel like the mattes in the Melt palette, they're going to be pretty close to this palette, and you will use them interchangeably. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. I'm just torn. I just can't see paying $65 for a very awkward, heavy palette like this. That's my biggest complaint. I do think their stackables are a little bit nicer. If you're gonna, want to purchase stuff from them, I would maybe purchase the stackables. Maybe I should have gotten the Gemini palette and not this palette, because I'm not super impressed with the shimmers. There's not a whole lot of uniqueness to them. They're pretty dupeable. So there's some right there. Let's do Morning After. Morning After is really pretty. It does remind me of some other shades that I have though. I have No Regrets on my eye, which I actually did like that shade probably the best out of all the colors. But we'll just swatch them really quickly so you guys can see. So this is all the shimmers. Like I said, there's not a whole lot of diversity or newness as far as colors go. I'm just not wowed by it, so for me, I'm actually gonna pass on this palette, which is sad. I do think their quality is excellent. I think if you are drawn to this palette and you like these colors, then definitely you should pick it up. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching my videos. I really do appreciate it. Please like this video, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when I post a new video. It's usually every Tuesday. Also, in the description box will be my Instagram, so you can follow me for daily posts, and my website if you'd like to hire me as a makeup artist, because you can. and I'll see you guys on the next one.